Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about a new film that just came out recently called A Monster Calls. It just recently had its wide release. It premiered at a couple film festivals throughout 2016. So it technically is a 2016 film, but it came out in my area in early 2017. So I have to treat this like a 2016 movie. So, in A Monster Calls, you guys, it's based off a classic novel that's also called A Monster Calls by writer Patrick Ness. And it's about a young boy whose mother's diagnosed with a severe form of cancer. His family goes through a very rough time. He might have to live with his grandmother, who he doesn't like. His father is kind of distant and out of his life, unfortunately. And it was really only the mother that really took care of him over the course of his childhood. But before she was diagnosed with cancer, the two of them are really big on art. They like to illustrate, they like to draw, and they both come up with this tree monster character that's based off a tree right outside their home that they made like a fictional monster off of, that they both made in their imagination and drew down on paper. And so throughout the course of this movie, this young boy is imagining the tree monster that the mother drew for him earlier on in the movie coming to his house late at night, roughly around midnight, I think it was, or 12:07 or something like that. And every time the monster appears, he tells the boy a new story with the intention that the boy will learn and grow from the story. So by the time the mother has official results of the chemo treatment for her cancer and so forth, that hopefully the results will come back good. And even if they don't come back good, it'll teach the boy to move on with his life and to take on certain things that might happen if things go bad during the diagnosis and during the chemo treatment, that he can move forward with to hopefully progress in his life and move on to adulthood and move on to other things and so forth. So this movie is ultimately about this monster trying to teach this boy how to grow and how to develop and how to properly take on something that might not be easy to take on, and to move on with his life if worse comes to worse with his mother's cancer. So overall, guys, I like The Monster Calls a lot. It's not a fantastic movie. It's not one of the best films of 2016, but I really like the film a lot. There's a lot of admirable things about it that I think a lot of people are really like. So for my positives and negatives of A Monster Calls, there's a lot of watercolor styled visual effects in this movie, specifically when the monster's telling the boy a story, or whenever the boy's writing something down, or the mother who was working on some form of art before her diagnosis and so forth. I like that whole watercolor look that this film takes on. It's a very unique look for a movie. And I like a lot of the performances in this film. Toby Kebbell specifically, I thought did a really good job playing the father in this movie. Kind of, you learn how, why he was kind of distant and estranged from the child, and how come the child doesn't know as much as he would like to know about him and so forth. And how the dad can kind of teach him to deal with the grandmother that this boy doesn't like too much. The grandmother's played by Sigourney Weaver in the movie. So overall, really good performances here. Felicity Jones from Star Wars Rogue One plays the mother in this movie, and she does a very good job with that role. And it really is quite believable when she is diagnosed with cancer. You really do believe that she is diagnosed with it. It really is that believable with the visuals and stuff. There's also some very emotional moments here. There's definitely a lot of scenes where you can tell the boy or the mom or whoever is going through a very rough time, and you as the viewer feel like you're going through a rough time with that character, just because the drama is very effective and believable with the situations that sometimes happen throughout this movie, and you really do feel the emotional tugs that you're supposed to feel as a viewer for these characters. I also like the tree monster scenes in this film. I like how they feel. I like how the monster moves around whenever he's close up to the boy. You can definitely tell the visual effects team really spent a lot of time making sure this monster looked really good and believable. Liam Neeson does a good job voicing this monster and so forth. So the tree monster scenes look and feel great in this movie. And then that goes to my last positive. There's some really good CGI effects in this film. There's certain scenes that really do feel like that thing or that monster or that object or that story belongs with that environment, and you would have never guessed that that was CGI until you really looked at it closely enough and so forth. So they did a really good job with the CGI in this film, and that's really impressive considering that I think this film worked on a pretty relatively low budget to make this movie. But for my negatives of A Monster Calls, I think it is very much a style over substance exercise. There's scenes where I like the way it looks better than the story being told, or I like the look of the scene or the look of the situation better than what's actually going on in it and so forth. So as a result, it's kind of a Zack Snyder feel where I like the way it looks, but I don't exactly like the way it's telling its story in some parts. Another negative I had is this is a very slow moving movie. Unfortunately, those good things I mentioned earlier are very far and in between from each other. It's a very The film takes a long time to kind of get to those really big moments. There's really big moments that are really effective here, but unfortunately, the film is so slow moving to the point where it takes us a very long time to get to those really big, important moments. Another negative I have with the film is really not a lot of rewatch value. I really can't see myself watching this a second time. I think everything that I could get out of A Monster Calls, I experienced it with the first time, and I really can't see what second viewings or third viewings of this film could help me either like or dislike the film more, because I think everything I liked and disliked about it, I experienced the first time around. There's also a bully character in this film that picks on the kid a lot in this movie, and he's very one dimensional, really flat, really boring, just your stereotypical bully. Really would have preferred more character development for him here in this movie, because there's scenes where they suggest some type of backstory between him and this kid, the kid who's the lead actor in the movie. But unfortunately, they never dive into it. So as a result, he feels very one dimensional and just kind of your typical bully in the school kind of a character. But overall, A Monster Calls, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. It works really well when it works well. The watercolor style visual effects are great in this movie, but unfortunately, it is style over substance. It is a very slow moving movie. There's not a lot of rewatch value, and that one dimensional bully character really got on my nerves in this movie. So 8.5 out of 10. It's worth seeing, but it's not exactly worth owning just because, like I said, I think the one time you view the movie, everything you could possibly get out of this film will happen in that one view, and then after that, it really is not worth anything after that. So 8.5 out of 10. I recommend seeing it, but don't exactly recommend owning it or seeing it for a second time.